Good evening, Bhante. My name is Alex. I'm from Ampang. My question to Bhante is, could you elaborate a little bit more on the right effort topic?
Right effort is basically to get rid of unwholesome states and to develop wholesome states. Meaning, as I mentioned just now, if anger arises, then we should know that it is dangerous, because the Buddha said, if we frequently think in a certain way, then our mind inclines towards that way. For example, if you allow yourself to get angry, and then your mind inclines to anger, and very easily your anger will show, and you have given up the calm mind to develop an angry mind. So if you allow yourself to get angry every day, you find it's very difficult for you to get a calm mind, because you have given up the calm mind you prefer the angry mind. So for example, if a person also has lustful thoughts and he constantly sees pornography or whatever, then the mind inclines that way, and the mind cannot calm down. That type of person cannot meditate. So, you know anger is no good. Once it arises, you just cut it. You need you don't have a strong mind, so you cannot cut your anger. You have to, if we know the consequence, then only we are willing to make the effort to cut these unwholesome states. And then, for example, if you have unwholesome thoughts, and you know it's unwholesome thoughts, then you check yourself. So like I mentioned just now, these 4 objects of sati, you can't be mindful of them all the time. You try to be mindful of all that time, your boss will chow your you, sack you.
Will he lose? You mentioned about negligent and diligent sotapanna. Will the negligent sotapanna lose his status?
No, once a person has become an Ariya, it's permanent.
Thank you.
Thank you. Just now you mentioned about samatha. Samatha, is it related to right concentration, which is the last one?
Yes.
Okay. My second question is, can you explain more about vipassana? Because sometimes I heard that there are vipassana meditation and they treat it as a different practice. But just now you mentioned vipassana is a constant reflection of everyday's action. So can you please explain? Thank you.
I mentioned earlier that later books, either they teach things that contradict what the Buddha taught, or they say a lot of things that the Buddha did not say. And the Buddha, I mentioned in the Digha Nikaya, Sutta 29, the Buddha said his teachings are perfect and complete. If you want to add to his words, you don't see his Dhamma. So all these later teachings are created by people who don't have right view. So this teaching about vipassana, meditation, never existed during the Buddha's time. Vipassana is what you practice in everyday life. As I mentioned just now, you practice mindfulness, right mindfulness and right effort. That is vipassana, contemplation. In Chinese, samatha and vipassana is translated as zhi guan. Vipassana is always guan, contemplation. But later they try to say that vipassana is insight. But in the suttas, the Buddha said 2 conditions bring you insight knowledge, samatha and vipassana. Both together you need to give you insight knowledge. One by itself cannot. So I also mentioned that in vipassana, you need to practice right mindfulness, which is mindful of the body, feelings, mind and Dhamma. And of these 4, the Dhamma is the most important. Without Dhamma, you cannot become a Sotapanna. Without Dhamma, you cannot become an Arahant. And nowadays, you find that some monks who teach people to meditate, they tell you, no need to study the books, no need to study the suttas. So I said just now that later books say a lot of things the Buddha did not say. For example, in our suttas, the Buddha talked about 6 consciousness. 6 consciousness. In the Mahayana sutras, they talk about 8 consciousness. Alaya consciousness and another one, I forgot the name. How can there be 8 consciousness? The Buddha only talked about 6 consciousness. And similarly, in the Abhidhamma, you find a lot of things they created that the Buddha never talked about. They talk about Javana, Kalapa, Patisandhi Citta, Chutti Citta, Bhavanga. All these things the Buddha never talked about. And then they create all these things to confuse you. But the Buddha said, his teachings are perfect and complete. Why do you want to go and look for all these things, which are later creations? Only by studying the 5 Nikaya, you can become a Sotapanna.
Bhante, maybe you can help me to straighten my view. I think the time when the Buddha he was teaching Dhamma, most of the time he spent time with the monks. So he created the Noble Eightfold Path and led the monks for liberations. And for the lay people, I think he designed another formula which we now know as 5 precepts. Then I want to know if this Eightfold Noble Path is for the monk, then can you elaborate a bit about livelihood, right livelihood? What does it mean?
Right livelihood means you cari makan, you earn your livelihood in a way that does not harm other people. Oh, you mean for monk?
Yeah, because I think I was just trying to understand. During the Buddha's time, he spent a lot of time to teach the Noble Eightfold Path. So I think that Noble Eightfold Path was designed more for the monks.
Right.
Whereas for the lay people, he has the 5 precepts for the lay people to follow. So what I'm a bit lack of understanding is the right livelihood in the Noble Eightfold Path. For monks, because monk doesn't have any work anymore. So why would the right livelihood is in that Noble Eightfold Path?
There's some monks also cari makan. Fortune telling, selling tangkai. So the Buddha said also in the suttas is mentioned, right livelihood for a monk is not saying things that a monk should not be saying. For example, saying that he has got psychic power, that he has attained such and such a state and all these things, or hinting that he has attained this and attained that, or belittling some other people, talking bad about some other monk or some other nun. This is mentioned in the sutta. That is for monks. And not acting as a bomo and all that.
Yes, Bhante, you did mention about this Abhidhamma because in the original teachings of the Buddha, he just has 2 things, that's Dhamma and Vinaya. One is the suttas of the discourses of the Buddha, and the other one is a disciplinary practice, I think, for the Sangha. How did Abhidhamma came in? When did it come in? And who actually started it actually? Just out of curiosity. Because these like the high teachings of the Dhamma, it seems.
In the suttas, there is the word Abhidhamma. But if you look into the suttas, when the Buddha mentioned the word Abhidhamma, he refers to the 37 Bodhipakya Dhamma, the Ariyan Eightfold path, the 7 Bojjhangas, factors of enlightenment, the 5 Indriya, the 5 faculties, the 5 Bala, the 5 powers, the 4 Iddhipada, the basis of psychic power, the 4 Satipatthana, intense states of mindfulness, the 4 right efforts, Samappadana. These 4, 5, 5, 7 and 8 add to 37. And in the sutta, it is very clear that the Abhidhamma refers to the practice of these 37 Bodhipakya Dhamma. And historians say that there was a time when the Sangha split into something like 22 sects. And many of these sects created their own Abhidhamma. And this Abhidhamma differed, one sect from another differed. And then finally, now I think they have the Theravada, Abhidhamma, and another school, I forgot the name, don't know whether it's Savastivadin or what. Also you find, like for example, in the Theravada Abhidhamma, there are 7 books. The first 3 books or 4 books are quite okay. They don't contradict the suttas, and they don't say things that later things, but the last 3 books, they say a lot of things that the Buddha never said. Cakap banyak.
And the other thing is the you mentioned about Digha Nikaya, Majjhima, Samyutta, and Anguttara. The last one is the short discourses, which is the Khuddaka.
Yeah.
Is that very much like very mixed already, or it's not too genuine, or only a few books are recognized?
Yes. The Khuddaka Nikaya means a small collection. During Emperor Asoka's time, it probably consisted only of a few books. But then we can see they have added, and we saw very clearly in 1956, the Burmese, they had a Sangha Council, and they added 3 books inside there. And everybody knows that these 3 books are not the Buddha's words, and they added there. So you can see this happen over the years. So now in the Burmese tradition, they have 18 books in the Khuddaka Nikaya, making it the biggest the Nikaya. In the Sri Lanka and Thai tradition, they recognize 15 books. But even out of these 15 books, about 6 could be said to be reliable in that they don't contradict the earlier books, namely the Dhammapada, Udana, Itivuttaka, Sutta Nipata, Theragata, Therigata.
Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.
Bhante, could you enlighten me on the words between this ignorant and delusion? Because I think these 2 words have been used interchangeably many times in the teaching of the Dhamma.
Ignorance normally is translated is a translation of the word avijja. Avijja is defined as not knowing the 4 noble truths, not knowing suffering. Delusion is because of an unclear mind. We have certain views which are deluded, which are not factual. For example, you see the word doubt. The word doubt, vichikicca, occurs in the 5 hindrances and also occurs in the fetters, the 10 fetters. When a person becomes a sotapanna, he eliminates 3 factors. One of them is doubt. And in the factors, that doubt refers to doubt about the Buddha, Dhamma and Sangha. doubt about the triple gem, not having faith. So as Sotapanna has unshakable faith in the Buddha, Dhamma and Sangha, so has eliminated doubt about Buddha, Dhamma and Sangha. In the 5 hindrances, that doubt, although the Pali word is the same, the meaning is different. That doubt in the 5 hindrances refers more to delusion and unclear mind. For example, you go and apply for a job, and then you get offer from 5 companies, and then you scratch your head, don't know which one to accept, because your mind is not very clear, can't see very clearly. Or you want to buy a house, you can see a few houses or so you can't decide. So delusion refers more to that state of mind when it's clouded.
Thank you, Bhante.
Bhante, I have a question. Could I clarify what you said at the end? When Bhante was explaining the 4 jhanas, I think you expanded the first jhana and you expressed the 5 jhanic factors, and you said it was born of seclusion. And Bhante expanded that that means it has to be a renunciant because you have to be physically and mentally secluded. Do I take that to mean that a lay person cannot attain first jhana because we're not renunciant?
Not exactly, because during the Buddha's time there were lay persons who attained jhana, but then you look carefully, they lived the life of a monk. Some of them, they had 4 wives, and then they told, there's one, he told the 4 wives, he said, I'm going to practice now the holy life. So if any of you wants to marry another man, let me know, I will give you away. Then the first wife quickly said, I want to marry so and so. Then he called for that man, and gave the wife to that man.
So they have renounced mentally, even not physically, but they have renounced mentally.
Yeah.
Can Bhante please clarify why in the 2nd jhana it is different jhanic factors born of concentration? Can you explain the difference from the first and the second? Thank you, Bhante.
The first jhana, to attain the first jhana, that I mentioned, he has to be aloof from sensual desires and aloof from unwholesome states. So the mind has not attained jhana, is making effort to attain jhana. And so he attains jhana from letting go of sensual desires and unwholesome states. He makes the effort, and he attains the first jhana. But for the 2nd jhana, he has already attained the first jhana. So he starts on a higher level. He starts from a concentrated level. So he's born of concentration, and that 2nd jhana is much deeper than the first jhana.
Bhante, this question comes from a friend. Is there any reference in the Nikayas in regards to the Buddha's teaching? Would there be any difference of how the Buddha teach between a lay person compared to gods or a bodhisattva? Is there such reference that we can actually refer to in the Nikayas?
Which god are you referring to?
Any deva?
I haven't. What was the other
Such
one?
like the Mangala Sutta, where the Deva came down to look for Buddha in asking what is the practice of the getting the highest merit or blessing, right? So that is preaching to the Deva. Am I correct?
Oh, you mean the Buddha's teaching to a Deva or to a human? How is it different?
Yes. Is there such, or is there a sutta saying or mention, saying that there is no difference, or is there a difference? Reason why my friend asked on this matter is because he's receiving a teaching from another teacher, and the teacher actually get initiation from bodhisattvas, claiming that this is the higher teachings in comparison to what the Nikayas or the Buddha Dhamma's teaching is. So I'm sort of in a debate with him on such matter, telling him that the Buddha's word in the Nikayas is perfectly taught, and there is no such thing as this reference that there's another teaching from the bodhisattvas that the bodhisattva received from the Buddha. Then he challenged me to ask which Nikayas or which suttas that we can refer that.
Just now I mentioned that our Buddha is one of the top Buddhas in teaching, but is also one of the top Buddhas in psychic power. In the one of the suttas, the Buddha went to the Mahabrahma in the Brahma realms to teach the Brahma. And the Brahma, because they have great psychic powers, very proud, very haughty, won't listen to the Buddha. So the Buddha had to show psychic powers. After the Buddha showed psychic powers, basically like that, after the Buddha talked to him, he told the Buddha, I said, I will disappear from you. In other words, you won't be able to see me. So the Buddha said, you try. Then he said, I'm disappearing, but the Buddha could still see him. Everybody could still see him. The Buddha was controlling his mind. Then the Buddha said, I will disappear from you. And then suddenly the Buddha disappeared. He could not see the Buddha, but could hear the Buddha speaking. Then he got shocked. And then the Buddha emitted light. These Brahmas, they are very powerful. The lowest Brahma can emit light to 1,000 worlds away. The greatest one can emit light to 100,000 worlds away. And the Buddha emitted light much more powerful than him. And they all got shocked. And he said he's been a Brahma for a very long time. He said, I've never seen another ascetic with such great psychic power as this Samana Gotama. So, how can your other gods compare to our Buddha?
That's the reason why that he challenged me that which Nikayas can he refer to, that instead of listening just my explanation, that he wants to know that the teaching that he's receiving from his teacher, that is from another higher beings, is way better.
This teaching, if he's actually receiving from a Deva, that Deva is only a low Deva. Deva won't come to a human being, because a human being to a Deva is like a pig to us. When the pig comes near us, we close our nose. So we are smelly, compared to the Devas. We have shit, we have urine, everything, pus, everything inside our body. Devas won't come near us. So only a low Deva will come. But you see, low Devas, even the highest Deva in the sensual realm, they cannot see Brahma, because Brahma is in the form realm. So like in the suttas it is mentioned, sometimes Brahma comes to visit Sakadevaraja. When he comes from far, they can see a light coming. When he comes near them, they cannot see him unless he changes his form to be like them. He makes them see, then only you can. It's just like if a ghost comes in front of you, you can't see unless he changes his form to let you see or make you see. So low Devas, you cannot see higher Devas. So like in the Hindu tradition, in Chinese, the highest we know is Qigong. Yeah. Yok Ong Tai Tai or whatever. And that is not very high deva, in the sensual realm there are still higher devas. The Buddha said Yama devas, Tusita devas, Nimanarati devas, Paranimita, Vasavati devas. And there is a Chinese tradition. In the Hindu tradition, the highest deva is Brahma, Mahabrahma. They call him the creator and all that. But in the suttas, the Buddha said, Mahabrahma, you think you are the greatest, but there are higher devas you haven't seen. So recently in April, I went to Manila to give some talks, and I was invited to Ramakrishna Vedanta Society. Those Hindus there asked me to talk about devas and Brahma realm. When I talk about higher devas, I think they probably maybe never heard before. I don't know whether they were happy or not. So there are many, many realms. Generally, the Buddha does not go to teach the devas unless of past life affinity. Sometimes a certain deva has been his teacher, like the Brahma has been his teacher in the past life. Out of gratitude, he may go there to teach. But later books, like the Abhidhamma, they say the Buddha went to heaven to teach the Abhidhamma. And like the Mahayana, and even in Theravada, they say the Buddha went to heaven to teach the mother. But then the Buddha said, he has had so countless mothers in the past life. Which one to teach? Countless.
Yes, Bhante. Right at the beginning of the talk, Bhante mentioned that the core of the Buddha's teaching is the suffering, cause of suffering and the path and the end of suffering. And Bhante has, I can see that you have really dig into the Tipitaka and use all those teaching which reinforce the teaching of the Ariyan, the Eightfold Noble Path, like right view, thoughts, concentration, jhana, and vipassana, and how we have to start from all this in order to be able to end suffering and to reach nirvana. My question is, we are also exposed to some other teachers who also taught how to reach nirvana, like for instance through the Satipatthana, and they like mentioned, we also contemplate the feeling, the citta, the body, and the Dhamma. And there are also other teachers that strictly go into observing, practicing, developing mindfulness, and the essence is being that we watch this, the defilements from the Satipatthana, that they being the only path that can, the eradication of defilements and to reach nirvana. So by developing this mindfulness, we watch these defilements and we see that they are impermanence, suffering and non-self, and it keep on going, and then we also can, according to this teaching, we can reach the liberation. So my question is, what is Bhante's views on this? And does it actually need to tie so badly back to the Ariyan Eightfold path, or is it a faster method to reach this liberation? Sadhu, yeah.
Today I brought some books here. It's called the Contemplation and Meditation. the difference between vipassana and samatha. There are some monks who teach satipatthana without jhana. Yeah? If you look into my book, I quoted the Satipatthana Sangyutta Suttas. A lot of people practice meditation without studying what the Buddha said. So they think that you can practice Satipatthana without the jhanas. In the sutta, the Buddha said, if you practice Satipatthana correctly, you must end up with jhana. The Buddha also said very clearly, the foolish, incompetent, unskillful monk practices Satipatthana and does not attain jhana. So if you practice Satipatthana, you don't end up with jhana, you are foolish, incompetent, unskillful according to the Buddha. You take the book and read. It's not what I said, it's what the Buddha said. That's the problem. You don't refer to the Buddha, you think you're practicing the right way, totally out according to the Buddha.
Because the Buddha's teaching is so much, and we are always looking for the quicker, faster path. So, yeah.
Recently, somebody sent me a video. There's a famous Japanese scientist in America by the name of Michio Kaku. He said, you want to see a small boy or a small girl, how he will fare in future when he grows up. You offer him a candy. You tell this small boy or small girl, he said, you like this candy? Of course, they say, yes, I want. Say, you want it now? I give you one candy. If you wait 5 minutes, I give you 3 candy. Can you wait? The greedy ones want the shortcut, they want 1 candy. The smart one will think further. Wait, never mind. I can get 3 candy. Wait. So the Buddha said, a person who's successful in life, he sees further. He's willing to wait. He's willing to make the effort, take a longer path. And the suttas, the Buddha also said the difference between a fool and a wise man. The Buddha said, the fool, if he thinks he needs to make a lot of effort to get something, he won't make the effort. But the wise man, if he thinks the effort is worth it, so much effort also he will make the effort. Just like the Buddha, he had a very good life. He said his father was so rich and built 3 mansions for him. The wife was young and beautiful. The family was rich compared with other people. The Buddha said, whereas other families, they fed their servants very poor food. He said his father fed the servants very good food. Why did he become a monk? He wants a shortcut, he no need to become a monk. The wise person, he looks further. If it's worth the effort, he will make the effort. The Buddha said, suppose somebody gave you a bargain. Are you willing to suffer being pierced by 100 spears in the morning, 100 spears in the afternoon, and 100 spears at night? 300 spears every day for 100 years. If you are willing to suffer that, at the end of it, you become a sotapanna. Are you willing to suffer? The Buddha said, the wise person, he thinks he's willing to suffer that. Because at the end of it, he will become an Arya, never reborn in the 3 woeful planes. Whereas if you are a Putujana, you'll be reborn in the 3 woeful planes endless times, countless times. So be careful of shortcuts.
Any other questions?
Amitabha Buddha is also a shortcut. There are many shortcuts. Iquantao also a shortcut.
Bhante, last month I happened to spoke to a Dhamma teacher regarding the how accurate the translation of the 5 Nikaya by this Venerable Thana Siro and Bhikkhu Bodhi. Now we have been reading this 5 Nikaya. According to him, this translation by Bhikkhu Bodhi and Venerable Thana Siro, he said, not really accurate. But of course, we as layperson, we do not know because we just read. And to me, I think I can understand. So he said there are some monks who would be able to translate much better and more accurate. What is Bhante's view about this?
If they can translate much better, they should translate. But I think the translation, you can say it's probably 98% accurate or 97%. It's as near as you can get. But unfortunately, sometimes instead of translating the literal meaning of the word, they refer to the commentaries. And then they give interpretation. Sometimes it is not the exact interpretation. For example, they like to translate Satipatthana is the only way. The actual word is Ekayana Mago. Ekayana Mago is one-way path. The path that goes one way only. It only leads you to the end of suffering. It does not lead you elsewhere. It is not the only path because the Buddha said the 37 Bodhipakkya Dhammas, the 4 Satipatthana, 4 Iddhipada, 4 Samappadana, 5 Indriya, 5 Bala, 7 Bojjhanga, Arya, Atangika, Magga. All these lead you to the end of suffering.
Thank you, Bhante.
Any other questions?
Yeah?
Bhante, just now you mentioned we should search when we are listening to teacher, before we acknowledge them as teacher, we should search for Sila, Samadhi and Panya, and also see that there are greed, hate and illusion in them. But as a novice Buddhist, how are we going to identify whether there are, especially Panya, wisdom, because we ourselves are deluded and we have unwholesome states as well. So how are we going to identify them? Because there are so many questions that are being raised just now is because somebody told them something and we don't know who to listen to sometimes. So is there any way to know that the right teacher is having the right panya to teach? Thank you.
It's not easy to know. And there's one sutta where the Buddha said that to know a person's heart takes a long time. You have to associate with that person for a long time. You have to be smart, you have to be intelligent, to see. And slowly, because sometimes humans, the Buddha in the suttas, they said humans are very cunning, unlike animals. Animals, they show their nature immediately. If they're angry, immediately they show, etc. Humans, they can smile, a lot of anger inside. Yeah. So, take some time. But usually most people will go for the famous teacher. When I started off in Buddhism also, I went for a famous teacher, always talking about psychic powers. I followed him for 9 years, 6 years as a layman, 3 years as a novice monk. After I stayed with him, every day I observed his character slowly, and I got disappointed. That's why I switched from Mahayana to Theravada. One of the reasons. It's because it's difficult, that's why we have to rely on the Buddha. When the Buddha was about to pass into Parinibbana, Rabbi Ananda asked him, Bhagavan, after you are gone, whom should we follow as our teacher? And he said, take the Dhamma and the Vinaya that I have taught to be your teacher. Also the Buddha said, be a lamb unto yourselves, be a refuge unto yourselves with no other refuge. Take the Dhamma as your lamb, take the Dhamma as your refuge with no other refuge. And why? Because in one sutta, in the Anguttara Nikaya, I think it's 5.88, where the Buddha said, in the future, there will be some monks who are very famous, with a large following of disciples, monks and nuns and lay people. And he is also very learned and very senior. And such a famous monk, the Buddha said, can also have a wrong view. It's because of that, that's why the Buddha said, whatever a monk teaches, you compare it with the suttas and the Vinaya. Only if it follows the suttas and the Vinaya, you can take it to be the Buddha's teaching. Nowadays Buddhism is very rojak. So many views. That's why people get confused. The Buddha already saw that. The Buddha said in the future, when false Dhamma arises, people become confused because they cannot tell the difference. The Buddha said, just as now only true gold is available, people buy gold. In the future, the Buddha said, fake gold, counterfeit gold will appear. And then when people know there is counterfeit gold, people get scared. They cannot tell the difference between whether you are buying real gold or counterfeit gold, then people don't want to buy. So people who create all this wrong Dhamma, they are creating very bad karma. You see, for example, in Mahayana, because I was practicing Mahayana for 9 years, they say one of the founders of Mahayana was what they call Longsu Pusa. His actual name was Nagarjuna. In his biography, he said, people asked him, previously there were no such sutras, why now you say these are all the words of the Buddha? What did he say? He said, last time the monks during the Buddha's time, they didn't have the wisdom to understand the Mahayana, higher Dhamma. So the Buddha hid all the books in the dragon palace in the ocean. Then he said he used his psychic powers, went into the dragon ocean and the dragon palace, took out all these books. Apa ini, we know, Buddha's time, no books. No books, I got books during the Buddha's time. You find in the Mahayana Sutras, at the end of the sutra, it says that the Buddha encouraged everybody to print the sutras and distribute. How can the Buddha encourage people to print when there was no printing? A lot of things, when we are new, we believe, and then later we find out we wasted our time. For example, in Mahayana, there's one sutra, Filial Piety Sutra. It says Buddha was walking in the forest with his monks. He saw a skeleton. Then he bowed to that skeleton, And Nanda asked him, Bhagavan, why are you bowing to that skeleton? The Buddha said, you don't have wisdom, Nanda. This could have been my mother or my father in the past life. So I'm thinking, if you can bow to a skeleton, if the skeleton is alive, you should bow more, isn't it? The Buddha said, hard to find any beings who have not been your father and your mother, your relative in the past life. So many of his disciples were his past life parents. He must bow to his disciple. I see a man in the street, past life mother again, or a woman, bow. No logic. Yeah? But if we don't think, then we accept. That's why Buddha says, Yoniso Manasikara. Very important. Focus, attention. So like just now he asked that question about Satipatthana, because you are not aware of the sutta, so you just believe when you're aware of the sutta, then you are shocked. It's very different. Because I was so disappointed with my teacher, that's why after that I don't rely on a teacher, I rely on the Buddha. And now I find I did the right thing. Because nowadays there's so many teachers teaching the wrong things. Our real teacher is what they say in Chinese, Pen Se Se Chia Moni Fo. Our original teacher is the Buddha Sakyamuni. I brought some SD cards and the players. If you all hope to get stream entry and listen to the suttas in the Five Nikaya. Can we invite the... anything to ask?
Bhante, referring to the sister's question just now about the jhana, that you have to renounce the first jhana. The example you gave was it's on the male side. The husband advertised to the wife who wants to remarry. How about for like mothers? We can't advertise to give away our children, right? So on the ladies' part, as mothers,
if the duty of a man or a woman is not, he has duty to do, he cannot walk the spiritual path. He can only walk it like part-time. But if he wants to practice the spiritual path fully, then the conditions must be right. For example, in Teluk Intan we have one young man. He's very interested to become a monk, but he's the only son, and the parents are old, so he has to look after the parents. So it's not fair for him to walk off like that and then leave the parents alone. When I was in Thailand many years ago, I saw one lady used to come with two children to the wat, because the husband went to become a monk, left her to look after the children, and she used to come every day and look very sad. And I thought it's not fair for the monk to go and become a monk and leave the wife to carry the burden, isn't it? So if you have such duties, if you go off and wear the robe also, you won't be happy inside. If you're not happy inside, you cannot practice well. So you have to do your duty. Unless you don't have any children, then you talak your husband 3 times.
Thank you, Bhante.
Any more questions?